Well, speaking of issues,
Yes.
something cropped up big time last night with the Los Angeles Lakers, who are steamrolling through the Western Conference as they are. The defending champs are getting ready. It's going to be a big, just 3-month tune-up from here on out for the playoffs, but potential big news as Anthony Davis aggravated tendinosis in his right Achilles. This is an injury that caused him to miss a couple of games earlier this week, was held out of the second half of their loss to Denver, and he's got an MRI coming today, and he's going to find out just what the diagnosis is. Right now he says, I think it's okay, but we got to have the MRI to make sure. Here was Davis after the game last night.
That last step kind of re-aggravated another injury I already had. Now the next thing is like an Achilles sprain. Get an MRI tomorrow and then try to figure out the next steps to get back on the floor. Now I'm gonna do the same thing, same steps to get it back right. Obviously be a little bit more smarter with it, which I think I was smart the first time, but even more smarter, up the treatment more instead of, 3 times a day, maybe 5 times a day, just trying to get it back where it needs to be to go out there and help the team. But like I said, all that will dictate on the information I receive tomorrow from the MRI to be able to move forward to get back on the floor.
All right, Doug, he said that Sunday was the first day that his Achilles felt completely fine, didn't feel it in the morning, afternoon, pregame, which is why he felt so good to go. And now, look, he's dealing with this issue, and who knows what the outcome's going to be. These guys are playing a lot of minutes. I feel like the Lakers have the pedal to the floor here in the middle of February. Do you see that with this team, with what's going on with him?
Well, I mean, look, it's a really weird schedule. You have some teams that hadn't played since February, and they were kind of jonesing to play. But because, you had a shortened training camp or whatever, but you had you had that group of teams, I don't know, it was 8 that didn't play in the bubble, and they hadn't played since February, right? Then you have other teams that were out of the bubble pretty early. Then you had the Lakers that the finals were like 2 weeks. It felt like 2 weeks before they started the next season. They're a weird team to watch. Obviously, they're very good. They're probably more talented, especially offensively, than they were last year. And there are times in which they play well and they play healthy. They feel like the best team in the league, but the tendinosis. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express. My basic understanding of it is it's like tendonitis of the knee, only in the Achilles tendon, and that's overuse. And they're like, what are we doing here? But part of it is they do it to themselves. They get down. I don't know. Did you watch Friday night? They're playing Memphis. They were down like 20, like that. Mm-hmm. It was like down like 12, and I tweeted out like, "Did they even warm up?" And then they come back and then they take the lead in the third or fourth quarter. But because they're down so much, like they got to play LeBron and Anthony Davis a bunch. And shock. What's amazing is LeBron James is in year 18, and there's no tendonitis or tendinosis to speak of. Anthony Davis, though he's in like 10th year in the league or whatever, but he's like half his age. Like all of a sudden, his body's like, man. What is LeBron doing that he's such an Iron Man? And this guy is, but it's really, it's the one thing that you concern yourself with. Like, can you get to the finish line with everybody healthy? And, when do you start to limit LeBron's minutes? They're not practicing, so that's good. So these are like their only workouts of the day. They are kind of managing themselves, but yeah, I mean, like, look, the fable of Achilles is like, that was his lone weakness, and that could be the weakness of this team.
I see the Lakers playing, and I get that, hey, you think they want to be able to manage minutes. They talked all the preseason about LeBron's got to manage his minutes. That's the reason why they went out and they did what they did in free agency, bringing in a guy like Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder who can take up the scoring slack so LeBron can not have to play so many minutes. And especially in a year where you don't know what home court advantage is going to mean in the playoffs. I'd like to think that fans are going to be allowed back in across the board and you're going to see it, but maybe the best case scenario is you get, it's one of those 22% capacity things, which is okay, it's great, but are you really going crazy for home court advantage for that? And especially it's such a big unknown. And I see the Lakers, all right, we have Anthony Davis is going to keep playing. When injuries like this, I've seen doctors say this is where you got to sit for like a month. And then it's gone and you're back. The Lakers aren't in danger of missing the playoffs. They aren't in danger of doing anything. If they lose a couple of games in the standings, they do it. And AD is playing, and LeBron last week played 3 overtime games, played over 40 minutes in every game. And I thought, okay, well, there's no way he's going to play Friday. And then he played Friday. And he had a big comeback. He played a lot of minutes for us. All right, well, he's not even going to travel on Sunday to Denver. They're not going to go to the Mile High Air and risk anything. He's just exhausted. Nope. LeBron played, and he played a bunch of minutes last night. And I don't understand why this push is, unless it's to, hey, we want to get such a good standing that when we get to the later part of the season, that's when we really want to taper off. And these guys are going to really have games off. And, right now we're going to push it. And then once we get into the sweeter spot of April and when you see the schedule get to game 50 or so, in game 52, 55, that's when you're going to really start seeing them back off, because I don't get why they're doing this so much right now.
Well, I hear you. I would say there's a bunch of different parts to it. If you watched last night against Denver, like LeBron kind of shut it down in the second half. Like he was playing, but he wasn't doing much, and he wasn't exerting much energy. I personally, one of the things I agree with, it seems to be a LeBron philosophy, is like, he doesn't want to come out, go back in, come out, go back. Like, that's when you actually feel like you get hurt. When you get older, it's not necessarily how much you're playing. It's coming, like it's really hard to sit there for a while, then come back in and get your motor running. That's when you feel like everything kind of locks up on you a little bit. And like I said, they're not practicing, and those minutes seem to be a ton of minutes, but when you consider, the way in which they rest, I don't know. I do think that there's going to be some days off. I do think that, though, that part of it is he's chasing, the all-time scoring mark, and he knows that he needs to play. The more minutes he plays, the more points he scores. I think the MVP is important to him as well. Like, I think LeBron's doing some legacy stuff here. Everything. You ever watch Hunt for Red October?
Be careful what you shoot at. These things don't take kindly to bullets.
That's your Sean Connery? It's not bad.
Yeah, well, I didn't know you were going to hit me with Hunt for Red October. I probably would have gotten my mouth more ready to do a Sean Connery
That's
impression.
okay. It's quite okay.
You know what I should have done? I should have done, you idiot, you've killed us. Sorry,
Yes.
Spoiler alert. That's
There
what I
you
should
have
have
it.
done.
Well, I mean, if you, unless you haven't watched TNT for the last 20 years, you have no idea what we're talking about. But do you remember the scene where he goes, the average Ruski doesn't take a dump without a plan, son, right? Remember that? Okay.
Yeah.
That's LeBron. Like, LeBron is cunning. He is brilliant, and everything is based upon a plan. And he's even said, like, the MVP matters to him. He wants to win the MVP. He wants to be the all-time scoring leader. And, and one of the reasons he plays a lot, and he's always done this, one of the reasons he plays a lot of minutes is points per game. Like, if he's going to take a game off, he'll take a whole game off because it doesn't hurt your average. So, look, is that in any way deceptive? Like, no. I mean, he's earned a right to kind of do what he wants to do, but, like, let's be honest, what's kind of at stake there? The more he plays in a given game, the more stats that he accrues, and the better it looks for his chance to win MVP. And I believe that's kind of what's at play there. And then, he shuts it down. They don't practice. He totally takes care of his body. Whereas and Anthony Davis's Achilles, though it hurts them in how good they are, doesn't kill LeBron in terms of how much he scores, because it hurts him in terms of his assists to Anthony Davis. But look, I think it's fascinating to watch how that team, especially that had a lot of older pieces. Not all of them are there from last year, because what's lost in it, Kyle Kuzma playing much better basketball, and what's lost in it is. Some of the other things as they're trying to figure out their bench and all that other stuff, and who's going to be in the rotation come playoffs. But if Anthony Davis isn't right, they ain't going anywhere once they get to when it really matters.
I got to think that after this, you're not going to see him for a while, regardless as to what. If they say, "Oh, it's fine," it's with a few days rest, I would have a feeling that it would be at least a couple of weeks before we see him play again, maybe longer, because this is something that obviously is one of those. It's like any time I see an injury on an NFL team, like I see, like this year for the Jets, right? I was excited about Denzel Mims, right? Oh my God, he's going to be awesome. Oh, they got him out of Baylor, he's great. And then anytime I see someone in camp with a hamstring injury or some kind of an Achilles injury or something like that, I go, oh, they're never going to be healthy this year. They're going to keep trying to come back to play because it's football, and it's going to be a lost season. So even though it's like a minor headline in training camp, sitting out with a hamstring, okay, well, you know what, that's it. They're never going to be right because it's just going to be about rest, and either they're going to miss a bunch of time or they're just not going to be right, and they're going to be in and out of the lineup. And that's what I think hopefully the Lakers see is that, all right, you're risking him just being in and out of the lineup, and I know it's hard, but I think maybe at least a couple of weeks before we see him again, maybe even longer.
Yeah, I have no problem. I mean, you shut a dude down, right? Like, shut a dude down? You know, you get more minutes from Taylor Horton Tucker, everybody loves. You know, you see what else you got. You're still going to make the playoffs, and you're going to be kind of in prime position. You know, I think it's a very real discussion to have. And then there's just the question of who is the most likely challenger to them. Like, quietly, the Clippers are pretty confident in how they're playing. Quietly, the Utah Jazz feel like they're a really, really good team. I know they're a tough matchup for the Bucks. And the Denver Nuggets are a team that exudes confidence and wants another shot at the Lakers, whether or not they're that good or not. Like, kind of, we'll see here. So, there's a bunch at play in the West where the Lakers, when healthy, are clearly the best. The question is, can they get to the postseason healthy?